On today's episode of the Glue Guys, we are going to dive deep into the mailbag, an official post-draft pre-free agency Glue Guys mailbag sponsored by
The Mail, UPS, by UPS. Bidding more, they want it.
Well, UPS is not, it's USPS.
USPS. That's what I meant to say. USPS.
UPS is
Into the show.
dry.
Into the show. Forget what I said.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian.
Hello.
Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys and netsdaily.com. The Athletic. Get yourself on the paywall at theathletic.com/Glue Guys, a subsidiary of the New York Times. It is the summer sale at The Athletic. Get yourself behind that paywall for $1 a month for, I think, the first 6 months. Brian?
Wow. I didn't know about that deal. Heck of a deal. Heck of a deal.
How are you?
I'm good. I don't want to talk about our personal lives. We're allowed to. Some people said that we could, but now I don't even want to. I don't want to know anything about your Peloton back there or what that, is that. What kind of painting do you have? It looks like just a gradient, some gray. Did you do that? Is that a home job? You did that?
I think that's a Home Goods purchase. I think that was from Home Goods, and it was meant to go somewhere in our house, and then it became mine.
Serving a little Rothko energy.
Yeah. It's actually a Rothko. It's an original Rothko.
Gorgeous.
Brian?
The Nets are back.
The thing is, once I hit the buttons, I got to commit to the bit. I don't have a way to really get out of it. So
okay. So you hit them all at once and you get it out of your system.
We have a very exciting episode for you today. For just Brian, we have an exciting episode.
Okay.
Mailbag pod pre-free agency. There's so much to discuss. Obviously, there's some big, fat, juicy Nets headlines that we can dive into. But we wanted to let the listener guide the show today, to take the steering wheel and to guide us across the Atlantic Ocean. Brian, who's first up?
First up, that's cheer boy Peter S Goodman.
Our colleague.
Our colleague and a good man. Peter S writes, "Hey guys, I continue to love the pod. Thank you, Peter. Even the personal stuff. See, I told you.
Peter!
He continues, "It pains me to ask this question, but I must. Like everyone paying attention, I, in all caps, love Mikal Bridges. Not just his game, but his wonderful personality and presence. I'm good with building around him, but, also all caps, might it not be worthwhile to try to profit on Portland's confusion and desperation? They want to keep Dame, and they want Mikal to make that doable. What if we asked for Scoot, and Simons, and Sharp, plus a first? They'd probably say no, but if they say yes, we have Scoot, Sharp, Simons. We're going Simons on that, right? Everyone, that's a Simons.
Simons, yeah.
Claxton, and Cam Thomas, and a bunch of picks. That team is immediately competitive with a chance to grow into great. Just saying. So this is a man after your own heart, Mike. He's not willing to let a good crisis, escape us. And how can we benefit from it if there is one?
Yeah. Brian and I have been friends since, God, fall of 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And I feast on people's crises.
Yeah.
I am a dementor for the crises riddled. I will dive in there and I will take advantage of anyone going through a tough time.
You were on Juicy Campus all day, every day. Do you remember Juicy
Campus? There's so much of our audience that's like, what?
For those of you who don't know, Juicy Campus was like the original insane, toxic app. I guess it wasn't an app, it was a website. But it was like, basically you were encouraged to just like gossip about people that you knew, like, and just create threads about other humans and just create rumors about them. It was like dark web Facebook, basically.
It was kind of fanfic though. There was like an element of it that was like things wouldn't happen, but they became their own sort of storylines within Juicy Campus.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the NBA. Peter S. Goodman. God, I love you. I love you dearly. I love your support for the show. But you're completely wrong.
Whoa.
Completely and utterly wrong, Peter S. Goodman. One, here's the thing. I don't as much as I love the idea of Sharp, Simons, Scoot, and a first, I actually don't think the Nets would get that from Portland. Actually don't know if Portland wants to trade Scoot. They would have had ample opportunity pre-draft, during the draft, right now, to trade Scoot. It would shock me if they trade Scoot. It seems like what they're messaging to Dame. So the context for around this conversation, Brian. Yesterday in Portland, Dame and his agent had a meeting with Joe Cronin, I think, who runs the Portland Trailblazers, and Jody Allen, who owns the Trailblazers.
Yeah.
And they had a meeting, and now it comes out via Chris Haynes, because everything about Dame comes out through Chris Haynes. Dame doesn't really want to get traded yet. He wants to see what the Portland Trailblazers do in free agency. Okay. So what I think is the Trailblazers actually they want to keep Dame, but they're actually not willing to go to the ends of earth to satisfy him. Are you getting that?
Well, I mean, everything that came, all the press, and of course, we're not going to get the real scoop. We don't know what kind of finger sandwiches they had in there. We don't know what the beverage situation was. There's a lot we don't know about this meeting.
Sure.
But all the appearance of it is lots of glad handing was going on, and everyone's kumbaya afterwards. I guess that's the sense that they want us to have right now.
Don't you think it would be appropriate? We say finger sandwiches. The idea of a finger sandwich is it's light, it's easy to eat. You keep it moving, you keep the dialogue going.
Yeah.
If you're trying to convince Dame not to want to be traded, load him up with like a fogo de chao, a buffet type environment. Don't you want to get him comatose from food, like the tryptophan feeling post Thanksgiving turkey, to calm him down?
Play some real hardball. Yeah.
So if it came out that, in fact, they had a Mongolian grill level meal, which I know I'm mixing my barbecue between Mongolian and Brazilian, but that's kind of, the Cuisinart I am. Cuisinart? Sponsored by Cuisinart.
Did you just call yourself
the bear.
a Cuisinart?
What's the word I'm searching for?
Like a gourmand or something?
Gourmand. Yeah. Okay. Cuisinart.
What a fucking right dullard. We are for sale. Let's
I am a dullard. Anyways, I actually don't think the Trailblazers are that thirsty to give up all of that for any single one player, unless if it's just like Luka Doncic.
Well, right, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, though. Take the principle. If you want to say that
I am Jewish. Moses was thrown out with the bathwater down the Nile. So
and that's generational trauma, and I'm helping you work through it right now. Here we and so let's take the parts of it that maybe work. Where is the price? Everyone's got a price, Mike.
Sure. Okay, so let me just say on face value, I would do Scoot, Simons, Sharp, and a first on face value, particularly if that first is like, if you make it a 2026 first or something, like you push it out a little bit to where Dame's older, and you're hoping that maybe the Trailblazers, sure, they're good next year, but the years after that, they won't be as exciting. Yeah. But again, I don't think that offer's on the table. Here's the key thing about Mikal Bridges. Plenty of people have said this. I'll say it too. He makes $25 million a year. For as much as the cap's going up, he makes half as much as Bradley Beal. And he showed to be a better player than Bradley Beal in the time he was in Brooklyn versus what Bradley Beal has been in Washington. So Mikal Bridges is the most, I haven't really figured this out. I haven't game planned this. The most valuable non-max, non-rookie contract player in the NBA. Okay? So bundle up all the max contracts.
I would even say he's more valuable than many of the max contracts guys. I mean,
that's 100% right. Yeah. And that's why that matters to the Nets. Why Mikal Bridges matters is you see all these teams dumping salary. John Collins going to Utah for nothing, for a song, not even a song, a bridge of a song. Yeah. Going from Utah to Atlanta.
A guitartabs.com page. It's just reference
barely.
to a song. Yeah.
Maybe you get like a banner ad on guitartabs.com. That's as much of the value that he is. Bradley Beal going from Washington to Phoenix for nothing, right? These guys are just getting dumped all over the place because the second apron and, it's so scary and, we have to save money and blah, 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 blah. The Nets are in an amazing building position because their best player, who's young, a good guy, and a growing player. Can you hear thunder, by the way?
I did. I just caught that, I think.
Yeah. Is making about $25 million a year. and he's on a long-term contract.
Can we also
And
add to that?
That's a unique Boston book.
You
Yes.
used Bradley Beal as a point of comparison. I mean, another often reported, but good to remind ourselves, his whole brand is about playing games. He's playing the games. He wants to play all the games, more than all the games. 83 games in an 82 season is how many games he wants to play.
You mean Bridges?
That's what. Did I not say that? That's what I meant to say.
I think you said Bradley. Oh yeah,
I was saying
didn't
Bradley
follow
Beal,
you along.
who doesn't play.
Who doesn't play? Yeah.
Compared
Most
to
of these-
right.
Most of the players in the NBA don't play basketball games. Mikal Bridges is so dedicated. You know when we say someone is going to give 110% of their effort,
Mm-hmm.
he literally does it. So Peter S. Goodman, you've been roasted.
Boom, boom roasted. Also throw Glenn Y in there because he has the same question. So suck a butt, Glenn. Just kidding. Next up, cheer boy. That's Matthew Abramovitz. Long time, many time, Matthew Abramovitz.
Yes.
Says, hey guys, okay, piggybacking off our previous question, if Dame doesn't get traded to the Nets, what's the next best option to continue building this team? Do we go for any of the Magic cards or sign any free agents? Mike, big picture stuff. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Nets daily offseason report, the most recent one. There was a lot of talk from management, particularly Sean Marks, about a lot of staying the course kind of conversations being had out in public in front of reporters. If we're holding our fingers up to the wind, I got to tell you, more thunder.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, it does not sound like a big splashy off season. Again, this could be a sleight of hand, but that's the impression I'm getting. Is that different from the impression you're getting?
I think if Dame doesn't happen, and we haven't heard much actually from the Nets side about Dame, I think Zach Lowe had the best sort of articulation of this, is that the Nets have to consider internally whether they even want to give up the farm for Dame. And one quick thing, obviously Mikal Bridges is linked to Dame and they've talked publicly about each other. I think Mikal himself has literally said, like, I like our current team.
Yeah.
Because he's a good guy. That's what good people say.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I don't think Mikal Bridges has enough sway in the organization to already demand for Dame Lillard to be coming to the Nets and everyone get traded. Where, like, Kevin Durant had that sway and could demand such things. I think the next best option is the only option that's actually going to happen unless Dame's a reality, which is they're going to re-sign Cam Johnson and they're going to keep it moving, see how the team is, and then figure out, okay, let's keep our powder dry for the moves that are going to come down the line. Let's see how good Phoenix is. If Phoenix falls apart, well, wow, those draft picks mean a lot to us. If there's a contender that needs a wing, Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, though I do think one of those guys is going to get traded sooner rather than later. I don't know. I don't. Do you sense desperation? Like, do you think? I think the Dame thing is only happening because Dame literally mentioned the Nets as a team he would go to in a podcast interview, and because we know the connection between Bridges. But there's nothing that like really makes sense about it beyond those two data points to me.
No, I'm pretty much in agreement there. And really, we're in a good position because we didn't know we had an opportunity. We don't feel a whole lot of pressure we got a lot of leverage. There's not a whole lot of pressure to make this deal from our perspective. There's contentment. I mean, the pressure is that, we're like a play-in team right now, probably, and maybe that's even being optimistic, depends on what happens with some other dudes on the roster. But it's well, maybe this is a good time to talk about like where do you think our timeline is from management's perspective? Fans are impatient, Mike. We know that. We know that to be true, and we want to be contenders yesterday. That's not how things work in the real world, unfortunately. But are you thinking that they're thinking this is we're gonna see Noah Clowney, all the way through to fruition and because I don't think that that's the case either. So I don't know what the timing is exactly, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of incentive to shake things up too much right now.
Yeah, because also there aren't a bunch of available guys. It's like it is
free agent class. I mean, except for your guy Russell Westbrook, there's not too many whales out there.
I want Russ. I want Russ. I think it's like there's like no downside if you can get him at a certain cost. That's all. That's all. I just like him on this team. This team needs, like, we'll go through maybe a couple free agent guys. The guys I even picked out are like so boring comparative to.
I looked through that thing multiple times, just like the free agent class, and I was like, I went through its entirety at least 4 times, and I didn't write one name down of somebody that like I would truly shell out for, especially when we're like in a bidding war for Cam Johnson or whatever.
Yeah, here's what I put it down. Ayo Dosunmu. He's that really aggressive defensive guard from Chicago. I've always loved his game. I think he's a restricted free agent. Colby White, another guard from Chicago, where like the Bulls had trouble with like fielding lineups, and I want both of their guards who didn't play all that much. Thomas Bryant, who's never been a good defender, and we call him a center, and he's kind of a center, but he's a very good 3-point shooter as being a center, but he's been hurt consistently over the past 5 years. And Kendrick Nunn, who I think played like 3 games last year. He was supposed to be a Laker, and then they traded him to the Wizards at one point in the Rui Hachimura trade. Yeah. Those are my prime targets in free agency. I mean, that's also the understanding of like the Nets don't have salary cap space to get anyone above minimum, and I think those guys are like gettable, particularly Bryant and Nunn. Here's the problem with staying the course is that if they do that, and I support it, I don't think the team is going to be all that good next year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be in the 7-12 range in the Eastern Conference standings. I think there's potential for them to be good. I think, if we remember when the Nets had to make all the moves at the deadline because Kevin Durant wanted to be gone and Kyrie wanted to be gone, the Nets were sub 500 post that point. Now it's understandable because they merged the role players from 3 different teams, the Nets, the Mavericks, and the Suns, into one team while racing for contention. But that team is what it was, which is they're going to be they're going to be mid-tier Eastern Conference, and mid-tier being the 7-12 range. So are we going to be happy with that? Are we going to be okay with that? Is that going to be good enough to convince the next superstar who's available to want to come to Brooklyn? Because ultimately that's always going to be the roster build on this team. It's going to be making a big trade and then convincing another free agent to come here, and hey, that we've got a party going on.
I'm addicted to getting superstar players in free agency. Now that it's happened twice, I don't like it puts us in such a better position than trading away assets. It's just so much free good stuff to just have the ability to trade Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving instead of having given so much for them as we did with James Harden. So it's hard for me to kick the horse on that one, Mike. I'm jonesing for more free agent signings instead of trading away good stuff.
Let's do this quick break. Coming back, we'll talk more basketball. And we're back, Brian. Who is
next up? We've got cheerboy Alex Hodgson. You wanted to talk basketball. Well, this one's kind of related. This is a fun one, just a cute one after the break. Hey guys, love the pod. What should I name my new wiener dog? Must be Nets related. Much obliged, Alex. I gave it some thought. I've got 2 names for you. Okay.
Let me hear it.
Lucius Harris, aka Sweet Lou. Sweet Lou's a fun name for a wiener dog.
Yeah.
Sweet Lou.
And then people are like, well, why Sweet Lou? And you say Lucius Harris.
Yeah. And then also Chris Douglas Roberts, nickname Supreme Babe. Supreme Babe is kind of a fun name for a wiener dog. Yeah. It's a little bit, that one's less, because you could go just Lou for a wiener dog, and who doesn't love a wiener dog named Lou? Supreme Babe, you're going all in on the memes at that point. Like my cat, who's named Magneto. That's a full meme name, Two different paths.
I think that I would go Iron Eagle, just no change in name, just Iron Eagle. Okay. Just
interesting.
Little Iron. And I love Sweet Lou because there's layers to it. It's Sweet Lou, and where did that come from? Lucius Harris. Love it. Fantastic.
Next up, cheerboy. That's Ryan Newman. Hello, Newman. Newman. That's also dbronx1414 in the Discord. Shout out to the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, you're goofing off, and it's a problem. Discord.gg/. Guys, get in there. He says, hello. Looking around at what other teams have the Nets need, there are multiple teams with a glut of young guards, some with too many guards for their rotations after this draft. I'm looking at teams like you, Orlando, and you, Portland in particular. And then, on the Nets side, we have veteran wings that might appeal to these teams. I'm thinking the Nets might be able to get a guy like Anthony Simons or Cole Anthony, players who might be the fourth guard in the rotations this year for much cheaper than they ought to be. Kind of similar to what you're thinking about with your Colby Whites, although those are a little bit better, options.
Yeah, they are better. Yeah. Well, maybe... I don't really know. There's a lot of talk about Cole Anthony. I've seen him hit a shot before in my life, but I've never really latched onto him as an interesting guard. But that's just me. Yes.
Maybe DFS plus a first for Simons or Royce and a second for Anthony. Should the Nets abandon their Dame pursuit for one of these potential deals? I think here's an interesting thing. People are way undervaluing Anthony Simons. I mean, I don't know if you've seen his post. He was averaging 27 points on berserk shooting when Dame wasn't playing. I think the asking price for Simons is going to be pretty high. I don't know if other people feel that way. But if I were I picked him up in the 15th round of the draft last year in my fantasy league. I'm telling you, people are sleeping on this guy. So I don't know, and that's neither here nor there. But anyways, are we in the market for trading one of our many, many defensive-minded veteran wings for if it seems like guards, but also is that truly our number one need right now? Do you feel like the glut of guards offers an opportunity for us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to dive. I mean, I'm with you. Anthony Simons seems so. I mean, it makes no sense if Portland keeps Dame, and then they obviously have Scoot. Simons just doesn't ultimately make a ton of sense. There's a reason why he's available and not completely beloved in Portland. I'm sure it probably has something to do with defense. Probably has something to do with, I guess, efficiency. Though, if you look at his numbers, he's 89% from the free throw line, 45% from the field, and 38% from three. Tasty stuff. Turnovers only 2 per game and 4 assists. So it's not like he's so I've looked at Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole was just awful on defense and turned over the ball more than that. So Anthony Simons is pretty interesting to me. I just mocked up a trade. I think it needs to be fully baked. I need to really think about it. Joe Harris expiring contract, Dorian Finney-Smith, and the key about Dorian Finney-Smith again, he's making $14 million per year over the next 4 years. That's a valuable contract in the modern NBA with the second apron of the new CBA. Long-term, cheap. Long-term and cheap.
That second apron freaks me out. I'm having bad dreams about it. I shudder to think about what happens when you cross the Rubicon of the second apron.
Put those two together with Patty Mills, and you get Simons and Nurkic. Now, the key about Nurkic is a negative contract. I guarantee the Portland Trailblazers would love to get rid of Nurkic. And in this scenario, the Nets give up no first-round picks or any pick, really. The reason why is that Nurkic, for the Trailblazers to get rid of him, he has 3 years left at about $17 million per year. That's as much as I love Dorian Finney-Smith's contract. Nurkic is a bad contract. He's doesn't play basketball. He's terrible on defense and just hasn't been a factor for years in the NBA. But the Nets, it's not impossible to think that they could take on Nurkic because they don't really need him. They take him on as the tax for then getting Simons for essentially free. That's a cap-neutral deal. And then the Nets have a nice, delicious backcourt of Dinwiddie with size, Simons with the scoring. And you still have Bridges. You re-sign Cam Johnson. You got Nic Claxton off your bench. If Nurkic actually plays basketball, you have Nurkic, who I've always loved. But he just doesn't play, and he's terrible on defense. Mm-hmm. But he's the big, beefy boy that I've been I've been lusting for a big, beefy boy for years.
It's a meme in the Discord as well that
I've
all
been
of
waiting.
The Nurkic talk is born from this particular fixation.
I am like Adam Devine's character from Righteous Gemstones, season 2, when he has his flock of big, beefy men that he's building up.
Okay.
As his Christian army.
Okay.
You probably don't watch. You
I
don't
don't
watch
watch
Righteous
this.
Gemstones.
No.
This is falling
But I got
as
you. I mean,
flat as an anvil right now.
I'm following. You know, I get what you're going for.
I want. So again, I think this is. I would be very interested to get Simons for, again, no draft pick allocation, and I'm not giving up Adoree Finney-Smith, but like he really wasn't that good here, and I do think he has value in the league. So like, let's make that move happen quickly. So
Love it.
that's my thought.
Next up, cheer boy, we got giant taco salad. That's right. This guy's name is Giant Taco Salad. He says, big fan of you guys. Big fan of you, Giant Taco Salad. Feel free to talk about personal stuff all you want. Ignore the haters. Hey, another one of those types.
Can we get to who did not like it? Was someone in our comments?
Oh, this has been a recurring thing it'll be on the YouTube comments more than anything else. Which
Those aren't real people.
They are not real people. My question for the mailbag. I am pretty confident that 2016 Sean Marks would have walked into this job and traded Bridges for Scoot and Simons in 10 seconds flat. While I'm a big fan of Marks, I think there is too much scar tissue from his tenure, and a fresh set of eyes and a blank slate may be needed. How confident are you in Marks' ability to steer us in the right direction? What I like in that also is that he's sort of tacitly, he's like, he didn't do that, and it's a big mistake not to trade Bridges for Scoot and Simons, which is a move. Michael Bartholomew Smelts, what
Yes, sir.
what is your level of confidence in Sean Marks in this moment? Do you think is the scar tissue just covering over his eyes like Sam Neill in Event Horizon? You know, is he just like completely scarred over eyeballs, or is he able to see clearly?
I can see clearly now. The rain. Here's what I'll say. I freaking love what the Nets did in the draft. So like I'm on thin ice with Mr. Marks, just because again I'm just gonna go back to the Nets had all those pretty good players, and like the guys were like Kevin Durant and Kyrie, James Harden, and while he took advantage of Matt Ishbia in one way, I don't fundamentally, if the franchise implodes the way it did under your leadership, I am of the mindset of like we should get new leadership. But I love what he did in the draft. Noah Clowney is such a Sean Marks pick. Like he's not exactly like Claxton, but he's a better perimeter offensive player. Not as much of a shot blocker, but like he always stood out to me during Alabama games. Derek Whitehead, I am obsessed over I've been wanting him. He is the classic guy of like, he was one of the best players in the country as a high school player. Legitimately, he went to Montverde Academy. So he wasn't like a really good high school prospect from a terrible high school, like who played like inferior competition. And then you didn't really know of like, okay, would his amazing high school career translate to college? Derek played one of the best programs in high school, went to college, had a foot injury, had to get second surgery after the season. Sure, a little concerning, but as often mentioned, the person who did that surgery was a Nets team physician. He's got length and shooting, pure bundled up talent, athleticism, all of that good stuff. And he was just on this like monster Duke team where no one really looked all that great. And that happens all the time in college basketball. And I even like what they did in the second round, getting the kid from Kansas, where I'm also a sucker for like the Jalen Wilson's his name, the guy who's like the older college player who like just goes bonkers for points and rebound, like just becomes like a monster. And he also, I don't know if you saw this on the social medias.
I got you.
He went to Madame Tussauds.
No, I missed that.
Is that positive, negative?
Wait.
He got to New York, and one of the first things he did was to go to Madame Tussauds in Times Square. How do you think about that? Is that to me it's sweet.
Yeah,
it's a very sweet thing that like he's been waiting. I'm sure Kansas played New York City before, and maybe he had other experiences in New York City, but the one that we get is him at Madame Tussauds. That's heartwarming.
I think that read on it's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't want them to go like deep cuts like right away. You want them to experience the awe and wonder of Times Square. The rest of it's a beautiful place.
It would crack me up if he like put down like a down payment on an apartment in Times Square. It was like, this is where I want to set my roots.
Broadway is right here. I mean, what
M&M store, just pop in every day, get breakfast, get an M&M egg and cheese sandwich every day.
And T-Mobile right across the street. I'm there.
No, so where are you with Sean Marks? Because like to me, I think he does have scar tissue, but I don't think it's because he didn't make the
I think the part of the job where you would suggest, I think it makes sense to say that he's got scar tissue, but I don't think it's on the rebuilding side of things. It's on the superstar, competing side of things. I think like we have data that suggests he can rebuild a team well and quickly. We don't have much data that suggests he can manage a bunch of superstar personalities and turn that into a long-term competitive situation. So I get what people want, are thinking about fresh faces, but I do think that like, I don't know, the timing of it might be premature. Let the man cook a little bit, get us back to where we were. And then if we want to have the conversation where we're starting, to get to like courting, whomever, when and if that happens, I don't know, maybe you want to have that conversation then. I don't particularly want to. I think we had a uniquely weird situation for that period of time. I know there's a whole contingent of Nets Twitter who are just like hate management, hate ownership because they are stands for Kyrie and Kevin. That's fine. I get that. I don't get that really, and I don't think it's fine. That's I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth there. I don't know. So for me, I'm like, I don't think Sean Marks was really. I don't totally disagree with any of the decisions that were made during that time. I think hindsight's 2020. You do a lot of that stuff over again. But I think for at least this part, like if there's any other like rebuilding GMs out there who have like really planted their flag as that's part of their brand, I don't know a better one than Sean Marks at the moment. I can't think of one.
So you think Sean Marks is a clown? Can I can I tell you something that's just ping ponging around Twitter, which is insane and bonkers that like it's getting this much acclaim.
Okay.
NBA Central is like one of those hilarious accounts. That,
I can't believe how popular that account got just by looking somewhat officious in nature. That was a hilariously toxic aggregator app or account for many, many years. And
I still think it probably is.
Oh, it 100% is. I mean, it's born from that toxicity. But go ahead.
It has 1.1 million followers. It is the type of account where even if you don't follow it, Twitter serves it to you. One thing, this kind of makes me sad. Howard Beck's reporting Russell Westbrook is likely to stay with the Clippers. Makes me sad. But the thing that is ping-ponging across Twitter at this moment, an aggregation from Brian Windhorst. Brian Windhorst said on ESPN Cleveland, which I think is probably actually the radio station, quote, this is Brian Windhorst on the Cavs. I have some speculation. There's a couple of outlandish stuff that I'm not going to say right now because I'd get in trouble. I wish I could tell you more, and I know I shouldn't tease you. That, which was released 34 minutes ago on NBA Central, already has 5,000 likes, 860 retweets, and has been viewed more than 600,000 times. This is why I love and hate NBA free agency all tied into one.
Yeah.
In that it's like the fact that like there's he could say that and he's literally trying not to say anything and he's saying it and it's become a complete hot button issue. And I'm sure his producers at ESPN are calling him and saying, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like we got to get you on the air right now to talk about it.
Mike, we can you want to boost our engagement right now? Here,
sure.
Watch. I've been sitting on something and I haven't been able to talk about this, and I'm not going to say what it is, but it's big.
Can you give us any additional details?
It's about basketball.
It's about basketball.
it's about. I can't say any more than that. Could be professional, could be my rec league that I play here in the city.
It was things that you were told before?
Yes, from the most important people. Signed,
people that
sealed
you talk
document. See, we just did it. We just NBA Central. Add us. Do we have time for any more?
Let's do one more.
Next up, cheer boy, Rob OGrady. Robert O'Grady. He says, well, it says actually he signs off Rob eternally disparaged O'Grady. Interesting. It's an interesting character. Hey guys, I do not understand what this team is doing, and I am beginning to get frustrated. They have two routes in my mind. Keep Mikal and build around him to try and be an 8th seed-ish team, or trade everything away, restart, and get young. But after last night's draft, this is from a couple days ago, they seem to be doing neither. Sure, they drafted a couple project guys, but what does that ultimately do? Miami won't be worse than us again. The Pacers will be better, and who knows with the Magic and the Hawks. We could be a play-in team or worse with this current roster. Why not just destroy it? What about all the talk to trade up, get rid of Royce and DFS, plus our picks to actually get a rookie who could contribute? I'm still of the mindset to blow it up for younger, promising developmental players, but as long as we do it half-assed like this, we're going to be a low, mid-level team for literally nothing. So help me God if we trade for an aging Damian Lillard and that awful contract, like that's going to be a long-term solution. Snarky. Love it, Rob. Love that energy. Keep that energy. Mike, people are... This is a good little yardstick, a heuristic for what the temperament of Nets fandom could be. And does management have what it takes to withstand that deluge of snarkiness over the course of even 3 months in the 2023-2024 NBA season?
What do you say?
I say they can withstand that. I think they can handle a few Rob O'Grady nasty emails. Not that he's nice to us. I love you, Rob. Just I know that your shots are aimed upwards. So I don't think that they see it as an emergency that we need to go one of those two paths. There's been a lot of talk about player development, Mike, and we're back into that, as podcasters, that's where you don't want to be, the player development, era. Those are not good. But that's a lot of what we're hearing. We're hearing hey, Cam Johnson averaged 16 points last year. That's his career high. Can we get that up to 19? Things like that are what we're going to be hearing a lot of.
Yeah, it's the thing about me, right? I'm trying to be reasonable now. I'm like, oh yeah, don't blow it up. Don't trade for Lillard.
Come December, Mike, you're going to be frothing at the mouth.
I will be furious that this team is 11-13. And Dinwiddie's the one that's taking the shots at the end of the game, and Cam Johnson gets paid $25 million a year, and then he's maybe I won't be that enthused about him, right?
Yeah.
I just don't. I know that's going to happen to me. I know that I'm going to fall for my own failures as a basketball analyst. That I will be bored by some of the product on the court. I guess my hope is that this team becomes sort of what that Kenny Atkinson team was pre KD and Kyrie, which is, a very fun playing basketball the right way. There's some guys who are going up a level because of the way that they're playing. And then you become attractive to do what you want, which is to sign a free agent versus
patience.
Trading
I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but if we get Luka for nothing in free agency, you're going to feel pretty good about it. Let's sneak in one more, Mike, while we have you. One more.
Okay.
Next up, that's Cheer Boy. We got Max Oren. Max Oren. Max says, hey guys, big fan of the show from Chelmsford, England. What do you think the max we should match for Cam Johnson in free agency? What should be the max that we match for Cam Johnson? As the Rockets and Pistons are rumored to have strong interest and could test the waters. Another question, if that one has already been mentioned, which it hasn't, so we're going to get to that. What happens next for Cam Thomas? Does he get into the rotation next season or traded for other pieces? Thanks, Max. And shout out to Chelmsford, England. The Cam Johnson bidding war is upon us, Mike.
Yes.
And things are heating up. Best and final offer, go.
$25 million a year for 4 years.
Okay, the full 100 mil maxo, not really max.
Yeah.
The 100 mil. Going 100 mil.
It feels appropriate. It feels right. I think I made some joke about this on Twitter, and people were like, "Oh, different era." Sean Marks gave our guy Alan Crabb 4 years, $75 million, and that was 7 years ago.
That was a beaut.
And he gave Joe Harris, 3 years, $20 million per year, 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Cam Johnson's better than both of those guys. I mean, certainly better than Allen Crabbe, and
he's better than
like he's better than Joe Harris. Joe Harris is just like was so elite as a shooter.
Yeah, he was
and
having
also
a
the
moment.
team.
He was having his moment.
Yeah, it was a moment. Cam Johnson, like the problem is that every team in the league is going to want Cam Johnson because he's a big wing who can shoot threes and is a good guy, right? So who doesn't want that? The only thing I'll say about him is because he's a restricted free agent, there is a risk for these teams like Houston and like the Pistons to commit. Let's say they give him the $100 million contract over 4 years. Well, the Nets could. The risk for them is that the Nets take their time. You know, there's a time limit on when they have to accept that deal or not on their side. But the Nets, by taking their time and threatening to take their time, could make it so that all the other free agents sign with other teams, and then the Nets match that offer. And then those teams are like, well, crap, we have all this cap space, and we didn't actually sign a single soul because the Nets matched. That's the reason why restricted free agency, though it feels like, oh, what is it, just 48 hours or whatever it is, why it feels like it's risky for the teams that aren't the teams that control the rights of the guys. Mm-hmm. I think the Nets are going to match pretty much anything. Because it's hard to believe that they're not. It's hard to believe that some other team is going to outvalue Cam Johnson so much that it's like the Nets are just going to let him walk.
Yeah.
Do you have a number? Do you care? Like not care, but like
I think. Well, I mean, I'm just trying to think of
for me
like,
to answer.
What is somebody like? What's the craziest and most outlandish offer that like the Pistons or Rockets are going to make? And I agree with you generally. Is that like that is like. There is risk involved there. There's a lot of people also talking on Twitter about how like Cam Johnson's going to take a pay cut to like play with Mikal Bridges and stuff like that. That I don't believe in that line of thinking. But yeah, I think to your point, there is like risk on the other side of it that people don't super evaluate. And we're getting into pretty pricey territory for the guy. And again, love Cam Johnson, but his numbers are only just starting now to like become juicy-ish, and not even like it's his rebounds aren't great. It's just like. You get into dicey territory pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's a risk. I don't think he's a totally different player than Mikal Bridges. I think if I'm the Nets, what I do is I'm pretty aggressive with an offer right now. Whether that's like 4 years, $85 million or 4 years, $88 million, which would put you below, saves you $12 million over. Not that that's not even that much, but like, I think they should get pretty aggressive so that they can re-sign him and put that to bed without trying to like wait for another team to splash a massive offer on him. Don't even give other teams a chance, really. Just just attack, just get it.
And then even if that does happen, then Rui Hachimura is on the table for us. So there we go.
Please no. Absolutely. Please no.
Your guy. All right, Mike, get us out of here. Where do they find us?
Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys, NetsDaily.com, The Athletic. Get yourself on the paywall at theathletic.com/GlueGuys, a subsidiary of the New York Times Co.
Bye, everybody.